POOH here, coming at you once again with One Piece chapter 1097 entitled Guinea. So the cover request reminds me of one we got way back in the day with Zoro trying to get salmon out of a river, and there's a bear on the sidelines already eating a bunch of salmon, and he's kind of holding his palm up to the bear. So it's funny here with this one, Kuma's trying to catch some salmon in the river barehanded, but due to his ability, he keeps knocking them away. Which I told people that he can't control that. That's why he has the gloves on in the first place. As he's trying to catch the salmon, he's knocking them away because you see the little poof lines of his power activating. So that's really interesting. And another thing to point out here is that I think I was right, because a long time ago, Tashi Spin said that the ability affected his appearance with the bear ears. The reason why he doesn't have the bear ears as a child is because he's bald. The bear ears might just be how his hair grows because of the ability. Because now in the present, we see that he has them all the time. Also, I called it. I called it. In a short, I said that I always thought Kuma looks like a priest. And in the chapter, we see that he's acting as a pastor, healing the elderly with his abilities. I called it. I can't believe I've been on such a roll this week. I called that, though. I'll put the short here in the video somewhere, probably up here, but I called it. I told you all this was the case, because it always looked like that to me, even like way back in like 2009 or whenever I saw it, when it was on the Fox box, the anime. I called it. I don't know how many other people have said that, but I've always held that belief all the way up till recently. I've always held that. And it was just so shocking that the first place he ended up was a church, and that he became the pastor now of this church. Also, we know that's a hairstyle now, because in the first page of this chapter, we see that he has normal ears and bear ears growing out of his hair. So that's just how his hair grows, because of the fruit. It can't be because of anything else. I don't think so. Because it doesn't make sense that it'd be a hairstyle. It makes more sense now to me that that's just an effect of the fruit. And seeing as how, too, that every time that we've seen the fruit, like back in Thriller Bark, and recently when Guinea tells us about the fruit, when the image of the cat appears again, like it does when Robin thinks about the fruit back in Thriller Bark. So it's always been associated with animals. So that's interesting. And it's the only Paramecia that has that trait. So that's very funny. But yeah, Kuma's healing the elderly with his ability, and he's 17 at that time. And then we see adult Guinea. And one of my bros in the Discord showed me an edit of someone putting Guinea in like a Hooters outfit. They just made her shorts orange and put the word Hooters where sister is on her tank top. That was very funny. But yeah, so she's a baddie, but of course she's a baddie. You're reading One Piece, and she is 21. She's that much older than him. Jeez. And the whole idea here is that the king, who is named Bikuyor, can't pronounce that. He's taxing the citizens of the Sorbet Kingdom, and he is the current tyrant king of the Sorbet Kingdom. And he apparently is fond of wiretapping because he's listening in as the elders talk crap about him. So that's interesting. What's even more interesting is that we see that the pain that Kuma has extracted from all the elders has built up into a big bubble, and he takes it onto himself and takes the brunt of all their pain and suffering. He absorbs it. And he does this every week on Sunday. So it's literally holding Sunday Mass to collect Mass to then absorb that Mass. Because if he doesn't absorb it, it goes back to where it came from. So that makes me think that with the whole memory bubble in Vegapunk's lab, there has to be something special about stasis that was being held in to where it doesn't go back to Kuma. It has to be. Because after he takes all this in, he's fried. Which adds even more significance to the nothing happened scene with Zoro on Thriller Bark. And it makes it even more interesting with that whole cover request that I mentioned earlier, Very, very interesting. And like I mentioned in the short, both of these are sort of baptisms because he's sort of dousing himself in the pain of others so they will have to deal with the brunt of the pressure. Kind of like what Zoro did for Luffy back on Thriller Bark. So yeah, it's real deep. It's real deep and it makes you really endear to Kuma as a character. And of course, Giddy takes care of him. And the two bullies that we see from 1096 are bringing them fish. However, he doesn't want to marry Giddy because he's afraid of what will happen to her, like what happened to himself, his father, and his mother back when he was a child, which I also called. I forgot which video it was. I called that too. Oh, I'm on a roll this week. Oh man, we in it, baby. This is, of course, also when Kuma finds out about Dragon and he confronts the envoys of the king who have started imprisoning the old folks. And this is where we see Kuma perform his first Ursa Shock, so that's cool. Then, Bikior, or whatever his name is, he is a weird looking guy too. But yeah, he explains that the heavenly tribute is in accordance to the number of citizens that the country has. I don't think we ever learned about that up until now. I don't know. If someone knows, please correct me, but I don't think that's been elaborated on. So, in order to lower the amount of the heavenly tribute, the Sorbet Kingdom is split up into two halves. Only the northern half, where the castle and lower town are located, are considered the Sorbet Kingdom. But the area where Kuma's church and the village of elders are is the southern half, and that's not considered part of the Sorbet Kingdom. It is also dubbed the Lawless District, where the northern part is dubbed the Sorbet Kingdom. Kuma and Ginny are thrown in jail. I don't know how they got the upper hand on Kuma to throw him in jail, and this is the first time we see Kuma in his trademark hat, so that's cool. Then Dragon and Ivankov, along with the rest of the Freedom Army, come to liberate the Sorbet Kingdom. They kick Bokir, or whatever his name is, out of office, and the country is free. And this is coming about after the pirate era. So this is coming about after the death of Gold Roger, which makes sense because we know Dragon in all forms of media, in the anime, in the manga, and in the live action adaptation, Dragon is at Roderick's execution. And this is also after the destruction of O'Hara. And at this time, the Revolutionary Army is called Freedom Fighters. So once they come to liberate the Sorbet Kingdom and pick up Kuma, who becomes like their third pillar, and then Ginny, they become the Revolutionary Army. What's super interesting about this is that they're all wearing like these fatigue uniforms, and we see Dragon still does not have his tattoo yet. And no modifications have been done to Kuma. Even Ivankov is looking how he looks now normally. He's not wearing the full, like, burlesque getup. But he's got the gloves, he's got the fishnet cape, it looks like. But he hasn't gotten the full leotard and whatnot. And he doesn't have his trademark tattoo still, because he's got his own insignia, which I don't know what that means. But yeah, he's got a tattoo on his chest. Doesn't have that yet. So no one has their tattoos or modifications. Everyone's still fresh and young. Also to note, Ginny has stockings here. Just saying. Just like Bonnie. Ginny wears stockings and they're striped. I don't know, brother. I don't know. That's super interesting that she wears stockings. Just saying. Just saying. Just saying. Just saying. I wonder if Bonnie has something on her leg. Just saying. Because these things are becoming significant. I don't know. But yeah. Dragon talks about their lack of funding. We then find out that Dragon was a former Marine, but he found no justice in the Marines. So, cash out to myself and everyone included who said that Dragon was probably a part of the Marines. That, I'm not going to claim credit for that because that's not like a big thing to call, because that's sort of like a Occam's razor thing that a lot of people have come to over the years. So, yeah, cash out for everybody. Cash out for everybody. We find out that Kuma does go back to the Sorbet Kingdom from time to time. And then we see Ginny. Ginny is now wearing striped pants. And she is the Revolutionary Army East Commander. What's interesting about this is that in the present, a woman, too, is also the commander of the East Army, of the Revolutionary Army, and that is Bello Betty. So I have a lot to say about Ivankov in another video, and we're going to make that very soon. But it's just interesting now that a woman has always held that position. I find that fascinating. Because why is that? And she's very excited to meet Kuma. We see a mysterious person in silhouette as Guinea is chewing out her followers of the army for looking up to her. And then the final panel, we see the dragon had his signature tattoo, which is the same pattern that he has on a bandana that's always wrapped around his leg in the earlier parts of his life. So I wonder, what does this symbol mean? These cross hatches with these diamonds in between them. I wonder what that is. So he's gotten that now, and this is still fairly early in the existence of the Revolutionary Army. And we realize too now that their first base was Baltigo, that like bleached island that was all white. Yeah, that was Baltigo. So yeah, and then we find out that Guinea was abducted. We don't know by who, but probably by that person that's in silhouette. I can't wait to see who that is, because that's interesting. But yeah, it's super interesting that a woman has always led the eastern part of the Revolutionary Army. I'm so interested, because why is that? Why is that? There has to be some sort of reason. I just find that very interesting, because the rest of the commanders are male. And then what's interesting too is that, where is Morley? Because Morley's not here. But yeah, so the point is, are the current members who are commanders, are they considered the second generation? Because what it looks like is that there's been so much shifting going on from this time period here in this flashback up until the present. And then two, even though Ivankov is decked out in all his makeup now, has Karabaka Queendom been established? See, that I don't know. So that's interesting. Doesn't seem to be a break next week, but yeah, lots of questions. And what made Dragon get this tattoo? Because that's super weird, and what does it mean? But yeah, with that being said, give me your thoughts. Super interesting chapter, a bit of an in-between chapter, but yeah, super good.